And we're back, fellas. This is Tom the Chosen One, and we're here for another kind of impressions video, but this time around it's a little bit different because this time we're not talking about a full game. We're actually doing my impressions on a demo, and honestly I'm gonna do this because this demo left a huge mark on me. So sadly, without ado, I only got Italian beer this time, so here's the Ignusa. But what we're talking about today is a game called Space Wreck, developed by Pahris Entertainment out of Latvia. So let's get into it. Now fellas, I will just say that the Latvian connections will come out a little bit later in the video, because the influence is honestly, it's kind of incredibly cool. But for starters, let's just get into the premise of Space Wreck and all the kind of trouble you can find yourself in, well, space. Basically, Space Wreck takes place in the 22nd century when, after a vast campaign of colonizing the solar system, bringing with it endless bounty of the stars that are of course cause numerous different factions to start warring with each other for every little piece of ship fuel or every little slab of mineral-rich asteroid. You play a freshly minted space captain, TM, out of the academy that is commanding a ship that is honestly kind of a bit of a stinker, and after getting into a confrontation with pirates, your fuel chip has been damaged and needs to be replaced, so after drawing the straws, it's up to you to venture forth and fix the ship. Honestly fellas, it might seem a little bit generic, but don't you worry. Like a lot of these European CRPGs, it just takes a little while for it to get going. So with that, let's leave the narrative out of the way and get right into the gameplay of Space Wreck. So a refresher on CRPGs, or computer role-playing games for the audience that doesn't know, are basically the type of RPGs where you have a pulled-back isometric camera, you build a character with a bunch of skills ranging from combat skills to computer hacking to being an overall charmer, and then set them out on the world. Games most famous in this style are the original Fallout games, Planescape Torment, and even more modern experiences like Atom RPG or Divinity Original Sin, where the emphasis most of the time are in drawn out, interesting stories and several different ways to complete objectives. Space Wreck differentiates itself by, instead of being a drawn-out long experience, that they are advertising a shorter experience with a vast multitude of ways to complete them that go beyond the violent and non-violent playthroughs. See, the demo itself has one real objective for the player, and that is to find some fuel for your shuttle to go back to your main spacecraft and presumably continue with the rest of the game. And there's a refreshing amount of ways to go about doing it. In this Space Wreck, there's a layer of fuel storage where the vast majority of the fuel is stored, but at the same time, there's a sort of rival group of scavengers looking for the fuel as well. So there's kind of boundless options for you to get your fuel. Will you sweet talk your way with the leader of the opposing crew to get a cut of the fuel by helping him get access to it? Are you going to use your hacking expertise to reprogram all the cam bots in the facility to attack the opposing crew and then easily get to all the fuel? Or maybe there are other ways to go about it. What if, perchance, you took advantage of a disillusioned member of their team who was stranded on a part of the station with a faulty spacesuit, who, if you save her, might give you some help in finding a more subtle way of getting fuel that has nothing to do with the opposing team or the cam bots, like maybe, sneaking onto their empty vessel and steal their fueled up ship instead? Basically, Space Wreck is going to give you the keys to the kingdom to go out and finish the mission at your leisure, whether it be killing people and taking it for yourself or being a bit more subtle about it, but it has a bunch of different cool ways to do it. And honestly, fella, when I say that this game has so many different paths for you to take in order to grab the fuel, I really do mean it, and it's honestly so cool. It's the most striking part of the gameplay design, in my opinion, of Space Wreck. See, in Space Wreck, the type of character you can make isn't a jack of all trades and master of none type thing. It's more of a, you're really, really good at this one thing and you're maybe okay in something else, with gaping flaws in everything that's left over. And to me, this is a rather refreshing way to build a character. It basically means you have to think rather hard about what kind of character you want to make, and well after you make your character, you'll end up figuring out how you're going to get out of all the different types of circumstances you'll find yourself in due to the skills or, well, lack of thereof. For example, in one of my playthroughs of the demo, I made a character that was highly charismatic, and the second most useful skill was hacking, and while the dialogue checks were almost always beat, the hacking ones were kind of 50-50, so there were times where I really had to change my plans in order to do a certain objective. And what this kind of design allows you to do is basically have this cool, wonderful feeling of just winging it the whole way through to maybe just a little bit before the end, where the whole puzzle of the demo comes together and you finish it in just one fell swoop, and you feel like such a genius completing it that way. So as far as the amount of leeway I got out of just this demo, it makes me believe that the rest of the game is going to be just as wonderfully interconnected, and it has me anticipating what they have in store. So usually at this point we talk about the narrative of the game, but this time around, because that's kind of honestly really cool, we're gonna just talk about very briefly the presentation of Space Rec. I honestly don't really have so much to say, so I'll keep this section honestly a bit short, but all in all, the aesthetic of Space Rec is a mixture of 2D sprite work that is very reminiscent of the original Fallout games, with some 3D models thrown into the mix that fit in with the 2D style just perfectly. If I had to give it a further comparison, I would say that the 3D models kind of remind me a lot of the much more stylized version of the original Fallout 3 or Fallout Van Buren that is commonly known today. There's also this really nice use of color to give it a pop that I appreciate that ranges from your captain's bright red spacesuit or the opposing crew's color-coded spacesuits or turtlenecks. It's not a whole lot, but honestly, it makes it pop. For a guy like me that's, kind of colorblind, it's really, really nice when the colors pop like that. As for the soundtrack, it takes a similarly old school approach, with most of it consisting of more atmospheric tracks with long, drawn out synths that make you feel like you're stuck in your spacesuit with only your breaths in the great void beyond keeping you company. There's also more to the soundtrack, but I'll be honest in that I don't really remember it too well, because for me, the focus and the strengths of the game are in its open-ended gameplay style and its interesting narrative influences. And so from here, I think it's high time that we actually start talking about the narratives of Space Rec and its really cool Latvian influences. While I wouldn't say that Space Rec's writing is gonna win any awards, fellas, I will say that there's a lot of different layers to it that marks it out from the regular CRPGs out there. Prime of which is the heavy Latvian influence throughout the game. Now, most of you might not be able to spot it out, but if you're someone like myself with a, not insignificant amount of time traveling through the Baltics, then all of these disparate references are gonna hit you like a train. You're first gonna see the influences in things like the names of ships and various characters, and even the name of the space wreck that you're on in the demo has a Latvian name, from my understanding. But when the cutscene passes over the other docked ship and it says Spiritis in the proper Latvian script, which is a reference to a Latvian fairy tale kind of known as Tom Thumb, it makes you like, damn, okay, so this is genuinely a Latvian game. But of course, the references don't just stop there, and one that you're going to see all the time is the name of the UI in all the terminals, called Perikons, which is a reference to the Baltic pagan god of thunder, and Krogus 3 as the name of the space wreck itself, which if I recall is the word for like pubs, I think, but don't quote me on it. This name is of course quite fitting because underneath the sign is the Leisure Promenade, where there is indeed a pub where you can look inside fridges and find various Latvian specialties, like Riga Black Balsam, which is a herbal liqueur that's sort of like the Latvian national drink, though I will admit, fellas, that I am more fond of Valmiermuiža, Baltic Porter, or even their other lagers. And I'm gonna say, for the Latvian fellas out there, sorry once again, because my pronunciation might not be out there, but hey, that's my favorite beer there. And you may be wondering to yourself, like, Tom, why does all of this Latvian stuff matter? And I know for the average member of the audience, it might not mean a whole lot, but I have quite a few Latvian friends and I am quite fond of the Latvian nation and its people. So to see this game so confidently showcase the culture of the people who made it is such a welcoming sight, especially because Latvia is just one of those countries that, honestly, you just don't hear too much of. Honestly, fellas, even just talking about the game to some other Latvian friends of mine brought about some interesting stories. So with that, sit back, relax, because it's Storyteller Tom Time. So let's get into it. So there's a good friend and confidant of mine that is quite literally a bird from Latvia. Not a bird as in a woman or broad, but a literal bird who, like me, is a great enjoyer of the classic CRPGs, especially the original Fallout games, to which we've had many a goofy argument over. Also, if you're listening, and I know you are, it's still Fallout 2, so cope, seethe, come, and shut up, because it's still Fallout 2. Don't at me. But like a good goon, I recommend a Space Wreck demo to my friend, since a Latvian CRPG to the style of the OGs is probably a dream come true for my friend, and little did I know that I would cause him to go down a rabbit hole that would take him all the way back to the past. Essentially, it turns out that Pahris Entertainment is named after a long-lost point-and-click adventure game that my friend used to play, but sadly it seems the project just never got completed. And while on a historical level, it's sort of a neat little, just like, oh, that's kind of cool. But for my Latvian friend, this is taking him right back to the good old days, bringing back some great memories of early 2000s internet surfing in Latvia. Honestly, for me, fellas, little moments like this are why I still stick with the hobby and wade through an endless sea of new releases every year. Because while most people might just complain that it's all trash, you'll eventually find a little gem like Space Wreck that could turn it all around for you. So basically here at the end with my recommendation, it's a little bit different because this is a demo, but I'm gonna say, fellas, honestly, like if you enjoy CRPGs or are even a fan of role-playing games in general, then honestly, you're not going to lose anything but just playing the demo and see if you like it. Because if you do like it, well, you might just be in for a cool treat. Personally, I really enjoyed the demo enough to grab the full game that is currently, as of this video, still in early access, and I will humbly wait for the full release to see where Pahris Entertainment go with the full game. You can find the full game for $17 Canadian or just 15 euros, which to me, for the type of game that is being developed, oh man, that is just an absolute steal, fellas. Though I am not sure if that will remain at full price when it releases, so if this game comes out and the price raises, then oops, sorry. Hey, and so that's basically the end of the video, fellas. I really enjoyed this demo. It was so cool and interesting, and it has so many neat little references and just bits and pieces of Latvian cultural influence that makes it into a really unique game. So I gave the fellas at Pahris Entertainment some money, and so got it, and I'm gonna wait for the full game, and I hope you guys give it a chance and play through it as well, because man, oh man, this game is kinda cool. So with that, we're at the end of the video. If you fellas have come all the way here and you enjoyed it, well, hey, thanks for watching all the way here. For all the new fellas, if you love RPGs, CRPGs, or any of that stuff in general, maybe take a look at my catalog and you're gonna find something that you're gonna love. And if you love it a lot, maybe, just maybe you should subscribe. That'd be cool. But regardless, fellas, this is Tom the Chosen One, crying that all he has in his fridge is Ignusa and not a bunch of Valmiermuiža beer. And honestly, it's going to be a rough time till the next time I go visit the Baltics, so I'll catch you guys next time.